What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today we heard from our general manager and our head coach. We also heard from Okudah and Dupree. And guys, we're 2 days away from the draft. So we're gonna hear, discuss what these guys are talking about today and getting prep for this draft. Got my draft hat on, ready to go. So guys, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So guys, like I said, we heard from our general manager, Terry Fontenot, our head coach, Arthur Smith today. Talked about 43 minutes. The first thing they talked about is just, excited about the preparation that they had this offseason. We talked about it all offseason. The work that they put in free agency, utilizing that cap space that they had, in prep for this draft. It all ties in together. When you team building, you do free agency, along with what you're doing in the draft. This is what this offseason is all about. And they really is excited about the work that they put in, with the staff, the coaches, and everything included. So they feel like they're 100% ready to go for Thursday night. One thing that Terry Fontenot mentioned was just drafting for the future, not living in, prisoner of the moment, trying to get a big guy splash because we need somebody right now. You living in the moment. So he always drafting for the future. Now, usually, a lot of times, that dynamic between the coach and the general manager is kind of difficult because the coach is trying to win now, right? Because they trying to put wins on the board, but when you talk about the general manager, they talking about, hey, we need to be able to sustain over a long period of time. When those two line up together, you really can create that good, good symmetry together, and those guys can go down the road at the same time. That's what you really want from your head coach and your general manager. It seemed like Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot is on that page. We talk about best player available. Everybody's always talking about best player available, right? And the way Terry explained it was that they have a group of guys that's in one tier, and then they have another guys in other tiers and things like that, right? And based on how the draft goes, those first 7 picks, it's going to be a guy in their cluster that they already had. They ranked and stacked those guys, and if one of those guys is still there, based on the grade that they got on them, that's who they're going to select. That's what they're going to do. Not going to go down and reach for a guy that's, in another cluster that wasn't graded that high, right? So that's the way they're going to look at it. So when they're talking about best player value, it really doesn't matter which position it is. We talk about position value all the time. Of course, you're going to be some positions in NFL that's going to be valued higher. Quarterbacks, left tackles, right? Pass rushers, cornerbacks. Those positions probably going to be graded higher than other positions. But he also talked about impact players, guys that you want to be able to impact your team, not for today, but for the future, right? So you talk about a guy like Kyle Pitt, his versatility, the things that he's able to do on the field. Guy like Drake London, his intangibles that he came with. Those are the kind of guys they're looking. Those guys who really impact the game for a long, not just for, like I said, 2023, but for the future. So those are guys kind of look out. So when you think about best player available, that's what you're going to do. One thing he also mentioned was it was not going to grade on the curve. And the way I look at that is when you're looking at players, and they say it's 4 quarterbacks, in this draft that's could go first round, right? Well, if you got their first grade on one quarterback, and if you're picking 4th, you're going to take the 4th quarterback because that's the last guy on the board, or did you have because you lost out on your first 3 grades, right? So you're kind of settling when you're doing that. That's how you grade on the curve. So you're going to take a guy that if you had the number 1 draft pick, you want to pick them. No way, no how, but just because he was the last guy. So you're kind of reaching now. That's the example of how you get yourself in trouble, right? Because if you had him graded the 4th best quarterback, why would you pick him as your first pick? Because he wasn't your best. He wasn't even your top 3. He was your 4th. That's not really a good way to actually do these things. So got to be smart. That's why your board, each team, all 32 teams boards is really important for them to stick to their boards. Because if you get into the way, well, we really need a quarterback, we're going to take the 4th best quarterback off the board, but So you actually taking the guy that you graded fourth out of all the quarterbacks you had. In my opinion, that's kind of settling. And if you think about it, that's kind of how the Atlanta Falcons, when Justin Fields was on the board, he was not their first pick, right? I think Trevor Lawrence probably was number one. Trey Lance was number two. And then, so basically, you're telling the Falcons, hey, take the third best quarterback that they had graded on the board. You can argue that it was not the third. You say Justin Fields was second, right, or first. But on their board, he was not. So that's the way you got to look at it. One interesting thing that they talked about also was competition, right? The level of competition on this team has risen because of the talent, right? So the guys that they want to pick in this draft got to be able to, make these guys that's already on the team feel like they could not make the squad, right? I talked about that yesterday, the 53-man roster, looking at the projections, and the guys that I felt like they already had, penciled in is going to make the 53-man roster. But if you bring in great talent, some of those guys could be, on the fringe trying to make the squad. So that's the way you got to look at it. You want to be able to bring in the best talent. If you look at when Terry was mentioned that way, Arthur Smith was smiling. He loved the fact that it's going to be a really competitive camp, which brings back to the culture that they tried to create it. If you remember last training camp, how competitive it was. Nobody gave the Falcons chances and things like that because of, the 2-15 talk and all that stuff. But these guys really competed last year in camp, and it turned to show on the field during the season. So, this talent level has risen. There's no doubt about that based off the offseason moves that have made. You expect the young guys to get better. That's already on the squad, and the faces they bring in got to be talented enough to compete with all these guys to make that 53-man roster. So really going to be interesting how it plays out. They don't went through all the different scenarios that they talked about. They're ready. They don't also talk to so many different teams about the possibility of moving up or moving down. If something was to transpire during the draft, and they're like, oh, so this happened, we can do this. They already talked about the compensations and things like that, so it can really happen really fast. They mentioned about so many great players that really good guys coming to this league. So mentioned that the NFL is in good hand. I can agree with that. There's some great young men out there that's trying to change their situations, but come in, they're going to play and take the NFL to the next level. So guys, definitely go out and look at that 43-minute press conference and get some nuggets that you took from it. Those are the things that I took from it. I feel like they're ready. I think they're going to pick the best player. And like I said earlier, I really don't think it matters. But listen to them, man, when they talk about impact, if their number one corner and their number one edge rusher is not on the board, we might see Bijan Robinson actually get selected. I'm starting to think that more and more because when they talk about impact players and guys that could be for now and for the future, Bijan might not even get on his second contract, but those first 5 years could really be special. And if they are special, he will have the opportunity to get that second contract. But the impact that he can provide right away would be enormous for this Atlanta Falcons team. And we talked about that. So, but if number one pass rusher, number one cornerback's not on the board when they get ready to pick, whoever that is, I think that the Atlanta Falcons might go to the best player available. In on their board, that could definitely be a guy like Bijan Robinson. All right, guys, we also heard from Bud Dupree, Jeff Okudah. Bud Dupree, Georgia native, really excited for playing for the Atlanta Falcons. He talked about growing up being a big fan of Michael Vick, and family is excited as well. Really, what I took from his interview, his press conference was about coming in, being a leader, being in his 9th season, trying to show these guys the ropes. He said he feel 100% healthy. He's going to be in a contract year, so I expect Bud Dupree to play really, really well this season, and also help the younger guys like a D'Angelo Malone, like an Armor Ebiketie grow as well. He mentioned that some of those guys been looking at some of his pass rush moves, while they was in high school, which kind of make you feel old, but at the same time, that's good because they're gonna respect, the veterans that we have in this locker room, and I hope they can compete with Bud Dupree to make him work for everything that he needs. So that's going to be good. We also heard from Jeff Okudah, which is, Jeff Okudah, of course, everybody's going to, starting to label him as a bust, right? He's in his third season, of course, going his fourth season. But just be honest, he's been injury plagued, first 2 years. Last year really was the first chance to actually get on the field and show some of the production he had while he was at Ohio State. He said he kind of felt like last year was really his rookie season because that's the most football he has played. You think about it, he played like, I think, 7 to 10 games the first season, and then he only played 1 game in his second season. So last year he actually played majority of the season, and he would actually got to come in and probably work out some of the things that it's hard to work out in NFL. The transition from college to NFL is huge, right? So if we put it in those terms where you consider this his rookie season, which of course we know it's not, but that jump from year 1 to year 2 could be really enormous for a guy like Jeff Okudah, considering that he won't be singled as the best cornerback. He'd be the second cornerback now, so he won't have to worry about guarding the best receiver. He mentioned that they really won't like his ability to do bump and run coverage, which is really going to be enormous for us as well under Ryan Nielsen. So guys, at the end of the day, based on what I heard today, I'm really excited about the direction the Falcons going in. I can't wait until Thursday to see who they pick, and then going into day 2 and day 3 as well, because everybody they pick has the potential to be impactful on this team moving forward. So guys, let me know. Go out and look at those press conference today from our GM, from our head coach, and from our 2 new additions to the team, Jeff Okudah and Bud Dupree, and give me your thoughts about some of the things that you might have heard, some little nuggets, and we can discuss here, moving forward. So guys, that's all I have today. Let me know what you think. 2 more days. I can't wait. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.